Hi, welcome to my new video. Did Wine break your Yabridge program? In the video description I have explained these programs in further detail. But to be short, Yabridge is a music tool or a program which allows you to run Windows audio plugins inside a Linux environment DAW, Linux Reaper for example. I, for example, work with BiosFX2, a guitar amp simulation program. It runs not natively in Linux. But how do I use it inside Linux, inside the Linux DAW? I mean with a Linux DAW, not a DAW running through Wine itself, but the DAW itself is Linux native. I utilize Yabridge. And Yabridge takes Wine as basically as a fundamental to utilize these programs. But yeah, in this video I've explained in further details how to solve this issue. Wine is rather well known. It's basically the base fundamental for Proton, for example, all of which have a base idea, which is to translate Windows audio programs inside a Linux environment. But this is not to be confused with an emulator or a virtual machine, because Wine is not an emulator, is what Wine itself stands for, but it translates. I'm not going into the nitty-gritty here, okay? But it just translates the Windows calls into a Linux language as fast as possible so that it can run as natively inside Linux as possible. This is a rough explanation, take it with a truckload of salt. I'm just trying to bring a base idea across. Yabridge is a program which runs on top of Wine. And in the videos of the description, I've worked with Yabridge, how to install it, because the first option is it is in the official repositories, or the unofficial repositories for that matter, and you can just download them. Or what do you need to do if they're not in the repositories and you need to install them manually, because it's not as easy as this might sound. Because what you need to do is to copy Yabridge files into two directives, but this is not what this video is going to be about. So what could these problems be in the beginning? First of all, for example, your GUI of your Wine programs running through Yabridge are not responding to you anymore. Audio might be coming through, but the GUI is not working. Programs are suddenly no longer working at all, or not booting at all. So the kind of problems you can stumble across is great variety. And if these Yabridge programs have worked fine for you, 1 or 2 days ago, and then you made an update, for example, and then they're no longer working, the main offender is most likely going to be Wine. Now, with Wine, there are different versions. You have Wine Stable, you have Wine Staging, for example. What I can say is I've tested it out, and I had this issue with Wine and Wine Staging in both of them. So, okay, it's really frustrating that it's no longer working. How do you resolve this issue? It's actually quite easy. You utilize the Downgrade program, which does exactly what it sounds like. It downgrades a specific program, and it even allows you to bypass this program, which even lets this program to bypass further updates, unless you activate it again. But yeah, I will show you now. So here I am on my desktop, and now I'm just gonna boot up Reaper, and in here I have BiosFX2. BiosFX2 is a guitar bass amp simulation program which allows you to emulate, amps, effect pedals, distortion, etc. This here is the Windows version. So BiosFX2 does not provide any Linux versions. So how am I able to run this? I'm running this through Yabridge, which sits on top of Wine. Now, you might have the problem that suddenly after some update, for example, you cannot interact with the graphical user interface anymore, the sound is messed up, or etc. Usually it has more something to do with the GUI than the sound itself, and you know, it's really frustrating to work with. Now, okay, now you might think, I've not made any changes whatsoever. Why is suddenly the Windows programs not working anymore? And to figure it out, it's simple. I'm just going to my terminal, and first things first, I'm just going to type in wine ---- version. I'm using Wine 9.20. And I also have Yabridge CTL ---- version 5.11. Now right now you might have a different Wine version, because I've downgraded this program to temporarily bypass this issue. How did I do this? So right now I'm in my virtual machine. So with Yabridge CTL ---- version, and we have Wine ---- version. And here I have Wine 9.22. This version right now is problematic, because with this version I had issues with the graphical interface of programs running through Yabridge. So how did I bypass this issue? And that's actually really simple. You just download the downgrade, depending on the distro you are using, obviously. Downgrade. So, and now what I want to do is to downgrade Wine. So what I do is sudo downgrade Wine. It gives me the different versions. I want to have this version 9.20, so what I need to put into is 162. And it's going to download. Adds Wine to ignore packages, so it does not receive any further updates. So, you know, the next time you make a system update, you do not want this package to get re-updated to a dysfunctional version, obviously. And something I would always recommend to do is go to the GitHub page, Robert -VDH Yabridge, because everything is documented here. You know what Yabridge is, how it functions, etc. Drag and drop. Downgrading Wine, for example, is noted here. So everything is listed up here. If there should be any confusions, this would be a great starting point for you. And yes, I'm well aware it's not a perfect solution, but for the time being, if in the short term you should struggle with these things, it's a great starting point. Yeah, thanks for watching this video. I hope it was kinda helpful, interesting, or whatever. Keep working, because there's still much to do, and go read Berserk.